protozoal and anti-helmintic is A. Now, since A has two chapters included, yung dalawang absent is placed in number A. Yung dalawang nandiyan, si Tweety Bird at saka si Tiki Bird, ay magiging yung A. Sino nag-8 ulit? 1. Sino 8? Sino nag-8? 2, 3. Yun, nasa likod. So, yung dalawang absent si Hello Kitty at saka sa Hello Coffee. Ayan. Ay, number 8. Okay? Again, this report is to just make it simple. Guys. Make your reports as simple for keeping therapeutic agents. Okay? Mechanism action, etc. I will start it. But the bad news is, on Thursday, Group 1 will report. Group 1 will report. Unfortunately. Now, all of your reports will not be passed. Wala ko kayo papasa ng report. Okay? But, make sure that you give a concise summary of each of these chapters to your classmates.
Problem.
Okay? Of course, you can also give them. If you can give them study guides for the chapter, di maganda. Each of you will produce a study guide for each chapter of the group, and you give it to your classmates. Okay? Kasi nga, by book or by group, your finals for Clip Farm 1 is basically antimicrobial drugs. Okay? Kasi dapat i-take yan, hindi kasya kasi sa pharmacology yan. So, na-11 dito sa Clip Farm. Antimicrobial. Okay? Naintindihan? Hopefully ha. So, kung sino man yung 1,
Sa Picol ba ito na libro?
1.
Tatsung.
Pwede pa sa libro. Wala kang ganun. Tatsong nga pala.
Sino ba isang 1? Ay. Dapat na, parang masaya. Wala namang, that will be counted as your presentation as well as part of the quiz. Okay? At pag kayo may report, kung may oras pa, makakwis po kami yung report.
Kabaan niyo.
So, makinig sa sarili yung report at yung classmate yung makinig sa sarili. Okay?
Kabaan niyo.
Hindi na po parang, magagamit na natin yung overhead projector sa Chimorma siya. Magagamit yung overhead na sa class. Kung hindi, ginamit niyo yung projector sa college. Okay? Yan ang magagamit sa paper. Okay. So just to get the overview, this is a short reminder of your topics for the entire or the last reading period for Clinical Pharmacy 1. Okay. So let's go to basic microbiology. I know I'm your teacher in micro for lecture at least. Let's just go and tackle at least some of your basic tenets of basic microbiology. Okay? What you need to do is probably listen. So again, the study of microbiology is the study of microorganisms or living things that are not seen by the naked eye. These things or living things cannot be seen by the unaided eye, and the only way to see them is by magnifying them. And that is, of course, by using microscopes. Okay. The different parts or the components of your microbiological world includes your bacteria, your algae, your fungi, your protozoa, your viruses, your helminths, and if you include prions and satellite viruses, then also enzymes that makes your category of your microorganisms. And these are your prokaryotes and eukaryotes. This is a review. Okay. Now, the general principles of microbial pathogenesis is, of course, continuously a public health problem. Okay. You will not be able to get away with not knowing how to use antimicrobial agents because it is a public health problem. It is everybody's problem. Okay? It is always been part of the leading mortality and morbidity of patients, which are normally common for patients such as very young patients, very extreme age patients such as your elderly patients, patients with immunocompromised state such as your HIV patients, okay, and patients with chronic diseases, and patients that are in immunosuppressive treatment. Okay? Majority sa mga pumapatay sa mga pasyente natin, at least the most common ones would be pneumonia, influenza, and of course, worst comes to worst would be septicemia. And this, of course, is contributed also by your environment, your unsanitary environment, as well as one of the key factors of not being able to resist antimicrobial infection is malnutrition. Okay? You can classify your infectious agents, number one, by the size. And you already know that the smallest of all your infectious agents are your prions. Ilan is prions? Prions. Viruses may be small, but prions are even smaller. And of course, the largest would be your helminths, as well as other ectoparasites. Okay. So by size alone, you can have as small as 20 nanometers to as big as what? Meters or centimeters or even inches and foot. Okay. Now, one of the smallest of all your categories of infectious disease come from prions. What are prions? Prions are abnormal protein. These abnormal protein, when incorporated into your protein, particularly in the brain, produces problems for the central nervous system. The most common disease of the prions is your encephalopathy, or spongiform encephalopathy. This is known as the mad cow disease. Correct? Your bovine spongiform encephalopathy, where in your brain becomes Swiss cheese. Dali yung tsura ng Swiss cheese, diba? Yung butas-butas. So this can be also be found in certain organs of the body, such as your cornea, your Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and you can also have your Kuru disease. And normally people that get prions are those that eat meat raw. Sana pag kinain nyo may utak, isang tao may prions. Sana magkakaroon ng prions. Okay? So people that get infected with prions are those that have undergone surgery or even organ transplantation. Worst comes to worst, kinain nyo ang inyong kasamahan, which is cannibalism. Okay? And blood transfusion can also transmit your prions. Okay? Although hindi natin makita ang prions or prion diseases. Second, or category of infectious diseases would be the next biggest one, and that would be the viruses. You already know that your viruses are obligate intracellular parasite. And it can only be seen using your strongest, the strongest of all microscope, which is your electron microscope. Okay? Your viruses are made up of your nucleic capsid, or the protein covering of your virus. And of course, what is inside is the nucleic acid genome. And each of your viruses only contain one type of nucleic acid. So you either have DNA or RNA. Pag rinigtan niyo pa yung DNA, RNA nyo, meron kayong single-stranded DNA, single-stranded RNA, double-stranded DNA, double-stranded RNA. But never both. Only one is present. The shape of your viruses would be your sphericals, your icosahedrons or cylindricals, etc. Okay? You can have a virus that has a lipid envelope. These are your envelope virus, and those that do not have an envelope are known as your naked virus. The only way for a virus to replicate is to use the metabolic machinery or the nucleic acid machinery of its host cell. Okay? Because they have no capacity to reproduce on its own. Your viruses are very specific for a particular type of living being or living thing. So it can only attach to a certain living thing. If it is a plant virus, it is a plant virus. If it is a bacterial virus, it is a bacterial virus. If it is an animal virus, it's an animal virus, a fungal, etc. And of course, human viruses. Our problem is the interchangeability of human viruses and animal viruses, because we have viruses that are considered zoonotic diseases, wherein it affects both animals as well as humans. But the virus from the plant, you will not be able to get it because you don't have the receptors for it. Okay? So again, visualization is done by electron microscopy. So you know the different and the most common of all viral infections, from hepatitis to influenza, etc., etc. Okay? Now, the third one would be your most common of all your infectious agents, and that is bacteria. And bacteria is the only one to be known to be as a prokaryote. All of your other microorganisms are considered eukaryote, of course, with the exception of the virus. Your virus is still considered as a what? Infectious entity, not a living entity. Okay, tandaan nyo na, your virus is still not considered as living. It is considered as an infectious entity rather than a living thing. Now, your bacteria, which is known as your prokaryotes, can be classified into two ways. The first and most common of all your classification of your bacteria is dependent on the cell wall structures. Correct? The most common classification is the gram-staining classification. Gram-positive if it is color blue or violet. Red if it is gram-negative. That is dependent on the structure of the outer covering of your bacteria. Right? You also have the different shapes of your bacteria, from spherical to rod and spiral. Your bacteria can either need oxygen or they do not need oxygen to live. They can be aerobic to anaerobic. The way by which your bacteria can move around is either having a flagella, or you can have attachment of the bacteria to your body using your pilus and your cilius. Okay? Now, bacteria is present all around, but there is also bacteria that is present in your body. This is considered as your microbial flora or your normal microbiota. Now, your normal microbiota has a symbiotic relationship with your body. Okay? Your bacteria in your body should not be killed, particularly the gastrointestinal bacteria, your colonic bacteria, because it gives you some protective function that is given by the bacteria. So, if you take antibiotics unrelentingly, it can kill your gut microbiota, and that will mean problems. You know what those problems are. Okay? So, try to recall some of your very famous bacteria as well as their infectious diseases that it causes. Okay? The next one will be your fungi. Your fungi is a eukaryote, and it is given to basic chemicals that make it very resistant to antibiotic or antimicrobial treatment. The presence of ergosterol and the presence of chitin. Isipin ha? Yung chitin nyo, which is part of the cell wall, is the same cell wall of shrimps and crabs and insects. Your ergosterol is a cholesterol that is found in the cell membrane that makes it impervious to antimicrobial. So that's why fungal is very difficult to treat. It takes a long time for fungal infections to be treated. There are two forms of fungi. You have the round yeasts and the furry molds. Your hyphae, which are your molds, and your yeast cells, which are technically your rounded cells. Okay? Okay. Normally, if your bacteria, if your fungi has both forms, like FAL or yeast forms, they're considered as dimorphic. Your fungi are classified depending on its spores, particularly sexual spores. Now the spores can be either sexual spores or asexual spores. And spores is one way by which your fungi can easily disseminate itself to various parts of the world. It can easily be carried over by air, by wind, etc., etc. And that is why any food that you have lying around, if you just let it stay there for quite some time, it will start to have molds. Correct? Kahit wala naman kayo nilagay, hindi naman natapon sa lupa. But eventually, if you let it stay there for a long time without refrigerating, you will find molds in your food. And remember, fungi can take food from any living thing, particularly dead living things, or dead or rotting carcasses. Now, if you have an infection of the fungi or fungal infection, this is known as mycosis, or mycotic infection. Your mycosis are technically infections that are difficult to have technically. Your body is resistant to fungal infection. But if you have them, they will start to affect of course, the first line barrier is your skin. So you have 3 levels of mycotic infection. You have your superficial, which is normally part of the skin. You have your subcutaneous, and of course, you have your deep and systemic mycosis. Your deep and systemic mycosis are those that can really produce problems for you. Now, in order for you to get a fungal infection, there's one thing that must be present in your body, and that is an immunocompromised state. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, human bodies is resistant to fungal infection. Okay? So if you have a immunocompromised state, that means you're going to start having fungal infections, particularly the systemic and deep type of fungal infection. So when a person has fungal infection, sometimes we ask for the immunity of this patient. Okay? We try to investigate the immunity of this patient and to find out where the fungal infection is coming from. Yung superficial, pwede nyo naman makuha yan. Okay? And again, superficial can easily be identified by the name of the superficial infection. And it always starts with the term or the word tinea. Tinea pedis, tinea unguio, tinea capitis, tinea corporis. Yung mga an-an na katawan nyo, depende kung saan parte, will have the word tinea. Okay? The next, after your fungal infection, will be your protozoa. Okay? Your protozoa are single-cell animals, and it's considered as the prototype animal. Protozoa. Prototype animal. Okay? So you can have single cell, and you can have multiple or multicellular. They're all single cell, and some of them, of course, are very infectious for the body, and they can actually cause a lot of death in developing countries. Protozoa yung na pinakapamoso would be what? One of them would be the common cause of acute gastroenteritis, and that would be amoeba. You can have Plasmodium, which is malaria, and you can have Leishmaniasis, which is already found in Africa. Okay? In some cases, there are also many means by which protozoa can be transmitted to your body, and one of them is sexually transmitted. And if you have this protozoa, then you probably have a sexually transmitted partner or sexually infected partner that can transmit your protozoa, and that is normally your Trichomonas vaginalis. Okay? The next one and the last one will be your helminths. Your helminths are technically your worms. There are 3 worms, or 3 classes of worms that you need to think of. Your cestodes, your nematodes, and your trematodes. Correct? Your nematodes are your roundworms. Your cestodes and your trematodes are your flatworms. So you have your flukes and your flatworms. Okay? So, when you're trying to control these infections, at least superficially, okay, or at least trying to remove them from your body, there are terminologies that would be used in order for you to indicate microbial control. Number one, the number one terminology that you should always know is the term sterilization. What is the meaning of sterilization? What is sterilization? If somebody says you have sterilized something, what does it mean? What is sterilization? Sterilization is the destruction of all and removal of all viable microorganisms. And that includes viruses. So kung sinabi nyo sterilization, it is absolute. Dapat malinis lahat yan. Okay? And we normally use sterilization not for animate objects or living things. We use it for inanimate objects. But your body contains sterile areas. Your brain, your muscle, your heart, your liver should not contain any microorganism. Because if there's a microorganism in these sterile areas, then you have an infection. What is the meaning of disinfection? Kung sinabing disinfection, nasanay na tayo dahil sa COVID. What do you mean by disinfection? Disinfection is not actually the destruction of or the removal and destruction of all microorganisms. Disinfection is simply just a reduction of pathogenic microorganism. So pag naglagay kayo ng alcohol sa inyong kamay o ano mo panlinis sa kamay nyo, you do not get a 100% death of the microorganism. You have probably reduced it. Tandaan nyo yung safeguard commercial. Pag nag-ugas, may isa nakitira. So that means hindi absolute yun. You're just trying to reduce the number of pathogens that will pose a danger to the human body. Kaya dapat kaligo lagi. Pag di naliligo, dumadami ang pathogens sa katawan ninyo. Okay? That is almost the same as decontamination. Kung saan ginagawa sa urine, ang number of pathogens on an inanimate object. Ang mas ginagamit natin for animate objects is antisepsis. What is antisepsis? Antisepsis is the killing and inhibiting microorganisms on living tissue. So bago kayo mag-opera, ililinis mo natin yung area kung saan tayo mag-opera para hindi siya makapasok sa inyong katawan. Okay? Ganyan. Now, the term cytal and static is also dapat common to you. Okay? When you say you have a cytal agent, that means it is an agent that will kill. Correct? But suicidal. If you have the antimicrobial or the microorganism plus the termicidal at the end, that means this is an agent that will kill that particular microorganism. So if you have a bactericidal, it kills bacteria. If you have a fungicidal, it kills fungi. And virucidal and even sporicidal, etc. Pagcidal, again, it is to kill. But when there is a word static at the end, that means it needs to stand still. What is the static going to do? The static is to prevent the reproduction of your microorganism. It is to prevent the multiplication of your microorganism so that your immune system, if it is good, is going to be able to fight your infection. So kung ano man yung microorganism at tinagalan yung static, that means it's simply just to prevent the multiplication of your microorganism. Bacteriostatic, fungistatic. Okay? Okay. Now, knowing this, you now have the four major mechanisms of action of your antimicrobials, which each of your chapters will represent. Okay? Yung mga chapters nyo will represent the different mechanisms of action. And what are the different mechanisms of action? The mechanisms of action are based on the cellular target of your agent. What are the four cellular targets? Ano ba ang apat na cellular targets na tinitira nyo sa isang microorganism? Number one is the cell wall. May cell wall siya, tirahin niyo yung cell wall niya. Susunod, kung may cell membrane, tirahin ang cell membrane. Third would be your cellular processes. That includes your DNA and your RNA. Your cellular synthetic processes, which is headed by the DNA and RNA. And of course, the last one is the production of protein. Okay, production of protein. So if you start, let's start with cell wall. If you inhibit production of cell wall and break down cell wall, it is considered as a cyanide. So isipin nyo lang sa isang territory na nakapalibot ang isang wall, okay, para ma-prevent ang mga invaders sa isang area na yun. Pag nasira niya yung wall, mamamatay na yung buong city. So it's all dead. Okay? So, beta lactams are very famous for cyanide using inhibition of cell wall synthesis. Okay? Diba? Yung mga cell membranes nyo, which is basically your antifungals, okay, can also, if disrupted, can also produce death for your microorganisms. For nucleic acid or cellular synthetic processes using nucleic acid, that means you inhibit nucleic acid synthesis. And this is considered as a static, okay, a static effect of a antimicrobial. And if you also prevent protein synthesis, that means you prevent protein and reproduction of your microbial agents, then this is also considered as static. Okay? It will just simply prevent your microorganism from growing further and multiplying further. Although if you have an agent that can denature protein, this is considered as cyanide. Ano ba yung mga agents that can denature protein? Number one is heat. Okay. Pag iinit nyo isang bagay, maluluto yan. Sila yan. Pero pwede sila. Pero sa atin, pag kinain ka naman. Alcohols, phenols are also protein coagulants. So they can produce cyanide effect. Metals or metal ions, gold, copper, can produce cyanide effects. That is why during the early years of Egypt, when there is water to be used, and they get water from the river Nile, they place it on copper kettles. This produces an antimicrobial effect on the water. Okay? Try nyo makikita kung magkaroon ng copper kettles. Okay? So, the mode of your antimicrobials, again, will be based on the 4 cellular targets. So what would this be? You have inhibition of cell wall synthesis. Second is the alteration of your cell membrane. Third is the inhibition of protein synthesis. And the last one is the inhibition of nucleic acid synthesis. Now again, these are the 4 mechanisms of action that you will see common to the chapter that you are going to report. Pinag-iwan yata ang ganyan. Okay? Okay, so make sure that you can tell me whether your drug is going to work on which of the cellular targets that I've already mentioned. Okay. Now, another problem with antimicrobials is how to use them. There is a question whether to treat or not to treat. The mere presence of microorganisms does not mean that you necessarily should treat the patient. Okay? Hindi lahat ng mikrobyo sa katawan nyo ay infection. Remember, you have a what? You have a normal flora. The only time that probably you can treat your patient is that if you have microorganisms in your body and you are severely immunocompromised, then probably it's time to take your antimicrobials. But if you're immunocompetent, you don't need to actually take antimicrobials. Number 2, you make sure that you must know which microorganism is hitting your patient. Because if your patient is being hit by a virus, no antibiotic will work for a virus. It should be an antiviral and vice versa. Okay? And most often than not, overuse ng antibacterial natin, leading for a viral infection. A viral infection antimicrobial. Okay, pag nag-treat kayo, okay, paano niyo kapag-treat? So, pag nag-treat kayo sa isang pasyente may infection, the first type of treatment that you will do is what? There are two types of treatment when you're dealing with antimicrobials. Let's say antibacterial. Okay? Pag pumunta sa iyo, inuubo, sabi na hirapan huminga, mataas ang lagnat, may binigay biglang reseta sa inyo, antibiotiko. Okay, so anong klaseng treatment? Bigla na lang kayo binigyan ng antibiotiko sa reseta at ininom nyo. Anong klaseng treatment yan? Tandaan nyo, before you can treat, at least ideally, before you can treat an infection, you must identify the organism infecting you. Okay? Kasi if you don't know the organism infecting you, but you only know the type of microorganism infecting you, magbibigay ka ng gamot na pwedeng tirahin yung iniisip mo at yung posibleng cause ng sakit mo. Okay? And what do you call that type of treatment? What they call a type of treatment kung saan you are giving a guess on the microorganism that is affecting you. Anong tawag doon? Kung hirap na yung pasyente nyo, hintay niyo pa 3 araw para malaman yung mikrobyo, makapatay na yung pasyente kung pwede na mabigyan nyo ng antibiotic yun. So what do you call that treatment? It is known as the best guess treatment. It is known as your empiric therapy. That means this is known as the best guess therapy. You're trying to ascertain or at least guess your microorganism that is in liquidation, and you're giving the supposed proper drug of choice, or the drug of choice for that particular infection, until such time that you have to isolate that microorganism so that if just in case your patient doesn't get well within the next 2 to 3 days using your antibiotic, then the result of your, what is this? What is this in clinical farming laboratory? What is this? Oh, what is this? What is this abbreviation? Yes na. Ako, bakit pwede na ulitin na yung semester ng paper? Makikita pa yung siguro marami ito matulog sa what's this? This is known as ito yung Kirby-Bauer test nyo sa micro. Of course, hindi ka naman yung masyado ng Kirby-Bauer test. Okay? This is known as your culture and sensitivity test. You culture the fluid, and you will find out what microorganism is present, and you will test it using the different antimicrobial agents in a petri dish, and they will give you a result. And what result will you get? Susceptibility, intermediate, and resistant. Pag resistant, nakalagay doon sa inyo result, or sa inyong result sa antibiotic nyo, hindi pwedeng gamitin yun. Hanap kayo na susceptible yung microbial nyo sa antibiotic. So makikita nyo to as the result for your Kirby-Bauer test. Susceptible, intermediate, and resistant. So pwede na kayo, after reviewing, you now have what is known as a targeted treatment. Dahil tina-target nyo na mismo yung identify na inyong laboratory. Kung hindi siya gumagaling ng 2 to 3 days, paano kung 2 to 3 days gumagaling ang pasyente nyo? Tapos dumating bigla yung motion sensitivity nyo na sinasabi yung gamot na binigay nyo ng empiric therapy is resistant. Ano gagawin nyo? Itigil nyo ba yung gamot? O itutuloy nyo yung gamot? Let's start! Tuloy o hindi?
Kaya kapag may pag-inom ng gamot o
Hindi.
Pag-ano pa.
Ha? Tuloy. Tuloy. Ha? Tutuloy daw niya. Hindi. 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 Hindi.
Tuloy po.
Tuloy.
Tuloy po.
Tuloy. Hindi. 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 Tuloy naman. Tuloy. Sabi ka na nga po eh. Tuloy. Lagi mo party. Ha? Tuloy. Hindi. Sige. Yung pumasa sa inyo, yun ang patuloy. Ituloy niyo yung gamot. Your patient is clinically getting well. There is no point stopping the antibiotic if your patient is getting well. Magkano po siya eh. Malay mo, hindi naman lahat ng result ng CNS mo eh. Exacto yun. That's not 100% sensitivity and 100% specific. Di ba? Ito, specificity, sensitivity. Di ba? So, hindi 100%. Eh, paano kung yung binigay niya gamot, eh, ikaw pala yan, di ba? Yung mag-problem, so, totoo na dito sa katawan mo siya. So, namatay siya. So, you can always do clinical. You have to assess your patient clinically. If your patient is getting well with the hearing therapy, that is the lab. I will introduce you to TV controller number. Dito na TV controller. Kilala niyo ba sa TV controller? Hindi kayo nanonood ng TV ito. Channel 2. Millennial na millennial eh. Umuwi ka na. Bye-bye. TV controller yung plus ng Roberto. Si, ano ba? Christian Assurance. Hindi kayo nanonood kasi ng ano eh, ng news na yung mga ano. Anyway, okay? So get, if your patient is getting well, then continue and finish the 7-day therapy. Okay? Then pag siya magaling 2 to 3 days, follow your culture and sensitivity. Okay? Intindihan na? Kasi baka itigil mo siya. Ito, tingin natin kasi resistant ito kung ito binibigay niyo sa pasyente niyo kung saan nakita doon sa laboratory. Okay? So, always go clinical. Okay? Huwag niyo makalimutan yung response ng pasyente niyo sa gamot. If your patient is responding well, then go ahead. But if your patient is not responding, then you stop the medication and follow the result of your culture and sensitivity. That is how to do or how to choose your therapy, particularly for antimicrobials or even antibacterials. Okay? Ayan na. So, meron talaga pag nag-treat kayo, you have to, of course, know the pathogen, make sure the pathogen is susceptible to the antibiotic or the antimicrobial. And, of course, always do culture and sensitivity, particularly for patients that are immunocompromised. Kasi eventually, babalik sa inyo na. Okay? So, empiric and architect. Now, can you combine antimicrobials and antibacterials? Static and sidal. Can I combine 2 sidals, 2 static, or 2 sidal, 1 sidal and 1 static? Yeah. What is the best combination? If I do sidals, I do sidal and static, static and static, or static and sidal. Okay. Don't make the mistake of putting a sidal and a static together. You can put 2 sidals together. May dalawang pillars, pakain lahat. But do not put sidal and static together. Why? A sidal works if your microorganism is actively dividing. It does not work if your microorganism is in a standstill. Kung hindi siya nagpo-produce ng cell wall at ng protein for the cell wall, yung cycle nyo, hindi mag-work yun. Okay? Kaya you cannot put the cycle and static together. Nonetheless, that static drug that you know also has cycle properties. That is the time that you can put the two together. Okay? And you cannot put 2 static together. Okay? Technically, you can put 2 statics. Eventually, they will produce the cycle effect kasi kaya na ma-treat o kaya na kaya na mapuksa ng katawan nyo ang infection because they are not multiplying anymore. But the cycle has to work if it is actively dividing. Now, as far as spectrum of activity for antimicrobials, you have your narrow spectrum, you have your broad spectrum. What do you mean by a narrow spectrum? Antibiotic. A narrow spectrum means it only prefers a particular microorganism. A broad spectrum is an antimicrobial agent that can kill a gram-positive, a gram-negative, and possibly an anaerobe. Okay? So that is your spectrum of activity. Now, how do you wish to give your antimicrobials? Now, that depends on the clinical situation of your patient. Kung sugat na lang sa balat, huwag na kayo magbigay ng antibiotic na diretso at ilan ang laking iba. You can use your topical antimicrobials. Okay? Kung yung pasyente niya naman ay kaya naman pumasok or kaya naman pumunta maglakad, hindi naman nahihirapan, kaya magpahinga, then you can use your oral form of antimicrobials. Pero kung naka-wheelchair na yan at naka-stretcher na yan at hindi na talaga makatayo, nilalagyan ng hina, the best way to give your antimicrobial is through the intravenous route. Okay? Para mas mabilis ang effect ng gamot nyo. Intravenous will have an effect 1 to 2 days. Oral, you have to wait for the next 3 to 4 days. Topical, immediate naman na yun. Okay? So when you start converting your patient from IV to oral, what are the 3 possible terminologies in the conversion of IV to oral? Kasi pag kumanda na yung pakiramdam niya, pwede nyo na siya kung tawagin namin palitan dito from IV to oral. Hindi mo forever IV siya. Pwede naman IV for 1 week, pero ganun lang yun. So what do you do? What are the 3 things or the 3 terminologies that will describe conversion of IV to oral antibiotic? Number 1 is equivalent. Ano ibig sabihin equivalent? Equivalent is when you exchange the IV drug to the same equivalent dose of the oral drug. Okay? Kung binibigay siya at 1.5 grams every day, IV, ganun din ang bigay niyo sa oral. That is equivalent. What is the other one? The other one is parallel. What is parallel? When the IV drug is exchanged for a well-absorbed gastrointestinal antimicrobial, that is parallel. Ano yung very good example of a parallel antimicrobial? Ampicillin is better given intravenous, but amoxicillin is better given orally. So kung kayo ay naka-ampicillin IV, ang kapalit niyan pag nag-oral kayo, which is parallel, is amoxicillin. Okay? It is the one that is best absorbed orally, but not absorbed intravenously. Okay. And the last one is step down. Yung step down, maririnig yan because of the antimicrobial resistance policy. You have a step down. You have an IV drug that is very strong, and eventually it is stepped down to a lesser potent drug, oral drug, with a narrower spectrum. So it is a step down. Okay? And because of the antimicrobial resistance policies, all antibiotics should only be given for 7 days. No more, no less. Bilang pharmacist, kayo ang magsasabi sa doktor, Doc, pang 7th day na bukas, titigil na itong gamot na ito. Hindi nyo na i-dispense yung gamot. Okay? Doc, nasaan na kayo? 7th day na kayo. Hindi na po pwede itong gamot na ito. Okay? We only allow the patients to receive the antibiotic for 7 days, whether it is straight intravenous or straight oral. You don't extend it anymore unless you have an indication for the extension of your antimicrobials. Okay? Kuha? So, yung mga gamot nyo na i-discuss, nandiyan lahat ang effect or mechanisms of action ng mga gamot na yan. Okay? Now, one other practice in antimicrobial is during surgery, or sometimes in certain situations wherein you give an antibiotic even if you don't have the infection yet. And what do you call this type of treatment? what do you call the type of treatment where you give an antibiotic kung saan wala ka naman yung sakit nyo or you're trying to prevent the disease? What do you call this type of treatment? It is known as prophylaxis. Okay? Prophylaxis. If there is an indication for antimicrobial prophylaxis, then you can give it, such as wading in flooded waters. Okay? Pag alam nyo, nag-wade kayo sa flooded waters, it is imperative that you take the prophylaxis for leptospirosis. If you're going to Palawan, wherein malaria is present, it is prudent that you take a prophylaxis so that when you go to the forest of Palawan, you will not get malaria. Okay? If you're going to India, have your vaccination 1 week prior to going to India para pagdating nyo doon, hindi kayo magkakasakit na kung ano mang sakit ang meron doon sa area. That is known as prophylaxis. Another type of prophylaxis is during surgery. So pag inopen niya ang yan, nakinis naman yan, pero nagbibigay ng antibiotiko. This is supposed to reduce the risk of possible infection during the surgery. Okay? That is surgical prophylaxis. And of course, the prophylaxis is dependent on the type of surgery. So makikita niyo yan sa inyong mga libro. Pag nabasa niyo antimicrobial resistance protocol. Okay? Pati, of course, medical prophylaxis, etc., etc. Okay? So, the next best thing or the next biggest thing in the world of antimicrobial is the antimicrobial stewardship. Yan ang yung protocol kung sa NFA staff, kino-curtail ng isang clinical pharmacist ang paggamit ng antibiotiko. Kailangan needed, wanted yung ganun antibiotiko. Kung hindi, magkakaroon tayo sa matutang na resistance sa inyong pasyente. At baka hindi naman gumagumana yan mga ganun. Okay? So try to read that also on your antimicrobial stewardship program. Okay? So that you are well aware that when you get to the hospital, hindi kayo magulat na biglang pinahinto ng pharmacist ang gamot na binibigay sa pasyente dahil pang 7 araw na niya. At pupunta kayo sa ward para tingnan nyo na 7 araw na hindi nyo mahayaan na tuloy-tuloy yung antibiotic ng 14 days na yun binigilan. Bawal na yun. Okay? So it is also your responsibility to break down an IV antibiotic to an oral antibiotic. Sabihin nyo na sa doktor, kailangan nyo na i-oral to. Sige, so ano bibigyan natin? Pwede ito, ano gusto nyo step down? Pwede ito, in almost cases, step down na ginagawa sa antimicrobial stewardship. You give a narrower spectrum of antibiotic that will, because you already have results for your CNS, motion sensitivity, so you give a narrower spectrum. And that is how your antimicrobial stewardship strategies are doing right now. Okay? So, yan. So, basahin niyo yung antimicrobial stewardship isama niyo sa reading niyo. Kasi kasama yan sa clinical pharmacy. Okay? So, makagalo tayo. So, are there any questions? So, this coming Thursday, pasensya na, kawawa si Vina na si siya yung unang report. Pero si Vina lang naman kasi ang pinakaunang ginagamit ng antimicrobial. Gawin niyo na yan. Ito na kayo gagawin mo.